Okay, so now that we have our images, or now that we've kind of gone over rendering a little bit, now what we need to do is we need to set up a board for ourselves. And so if you'll notice, all these Make 2D drawings are at full scale, and that's just not going to work because they're not going to fit on a piece of paper. So we're going to need to scale them down. So the first thing I'm going to, or you know what, let's scale them down. And then after that, I'm going to create sort of a 11 by 17 piece of paper here. And then we can start to organize how we want to lay this out. So I'm going to select every Make 2D drawing. Make sure all your layers are on for your Make 2Ds. So that way you're not missing any information there. And I'm going to copy it over. So we have our original full-scale versions. And I'm just going to copy it over. Doesn't really matter. Just a certain amount. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale. And I'm going to scale here in Rhino, so that way we don't have to deal with it when we export it into Illustrator. It'll already be at the proper size. So I'm showing you how to scale something in Rhino. And we went over this for the waffle frame, right? When we scaled down our model, we scaled it down to be about this big. And so we're going to do the same thing with these drawings. So I just bringing this up to show you factors, scale factors, and the decimals versus the fractions. If you wanted to do a drawing at 16th scale, this would be the decimal that you would scale factor it down to. And really it's whatever is appropriate for the board size that you're working on. Since we're doing 11 by 17, we're definitely going to want our drawings to be smaller, so that way they fit on the sheet. And so let's try 16th for now and see what that does for us. And so I'm going to keep this scale factor number in mind, which is 0.0625. And so I'm going to select all this information. I've already typed in scale. So now I've selected my objects. I'm going to hit enter. I'm just going to select an origin point. And now it's asking for either a reference point, which we could draw a 1 foot line and a 16th inch line, and then select a point, drag it down, and it would make our line work at 16th. Or you can scale factor, which is by typing in a decimal. And so the decimal that we want to type in was on that website for 16th, which it was 0.0625. And we actually may need to add an additional 0 in there. I'm going to let me do this first. You guys don't have to do it yet. Let me just see how small it makes it for us. And so that actually doesn't look like it's small enough yet. Yeah. So I'm going to undo that. So when I do the scale and have everything selected, I'm going to select an origin point. So my scale factor is actually going to be 0.00625.
What fraction is that?
I'm sorry?
What fraction was that?
The fraction for it was 16th.
Oh, when you add the 0.
For some reason, I'm not quite 100% sure what it is, but you need to add the extra 0 in here because I think the decimal place is in the wrong spot. I think that has to do with the units and the decimal place. I'm not 100% on it, but I do know if you add that extra 0 in, it should scale it to the actual proper 16th scale. And a good way to check that is let's measure one of our pipes. So the way I'm going to check this is let's see if it worked out for us. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw a 1 foot line. Actually, I'm going to draw a 2 foot line. And you guys don't have to do this. I'm just doing this to show you the scale idea and how to scale something again. So this is a 2 foot line, right? We know our pipe is 2 feet. So, and this might actually be a little bit skewed because we cut it and it's at an angle. So it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be really close. So don't freak out when it's not, because you can see this one's sort of angled as well. Anyways, so I drew a 2-foot line. That was the distance of our pipe. So now what I'm going to do is draw a line that's 1 foot, and I'm going to draw another line that is a 1/16 of an inch. And you'll see it's really small. It's that little tiny line right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this line and I'm going to scale it down, and I'm going to reference my 1 foot line and my 1/16 line. So I got to get in there real close. Select the end point, and then select the end point of the 1 foot, and then begin to scale it all the way down to our other end point, which is here, 1/16. And let's hope when I move this over our pipe here that it's roughly the same size. So it's almost the same size. The reason why it's not is because this is skewed. This is not a perfect circle here. We're not going to get any perfect circles anywhere. So let me see if I can do a better example of that. What I'm going to do now is actually just trace this line here. And then I'll use the actual line itself, the distance of it, and I'll bring it down back into here. And so I'll do the scale again. So I'm going to scale. I'm going to get in real close to the end point. Select the other end point. Scale it down. And when I move this, I believe it was on this drawing. Was it on this one? Might have been on this one. Well, anyways, I thought it was this one. Was it? It still is, for some reason, is not 100% right, and it should be. So what that's telling me is that these drawings actually didn't end up at the right scale when we did the scale factor. So that means I told you wrong about the 0.00625. So what I'm going to do in order to do this correct is I'm going to undo and get all my stuff back at its full scale size again. And I'm going to use now just the technique that I just suggested. For some reason I thought using this number would work appropriately. For some reason it's not, and I'm actually going to look into why that didn't work. So what I'm going to do is now everything's back at full scale. So I'm going to draw a line with my ortho on, and I'm going to draw a 1 foot line. And then I'm going to draw a 1/16 inch line. So now I have two lines here, the little 1/16 and the 1 foot. So what this means is 1 foot equals 1/16 of an inch. So when we scale our model from the 1 foot reference down to the 1/16, it's going to make our model be 1 foot equals 1/16 of an inch. And that's how you scale something down. So I am going to now select all of this information that I want to scale down. And I'm going to zoom back in on this line, type scale, and select the endpoint. Select the other endpoint, and I'm going to take it to that endpoint there. And now everything should actually be at a legitimate 1/16 scale. So now I'm going to take all that information, I'm just going to select a point somewhere, and I'm going to move it to 0, 0, 0, and then do a zoom my selected info. So now it's brought me to my 0, 0, 0 place. Now real quickly, I'm going to make a rectangle at 0, 0, 0, and I'm going to go 11 by 17, and that is actually going to do 11 inches by 17 inches. So if I rotate this and make it landscape, So that's an 11 by 17 sheet of paper. And it looks like our information is still too big. But right now we know it's at 16th. So in order to keep it at a consistent scale, all we got to do is select it all, do scale again, and go ahead and just click maybe at the origin point. And let's do a scale factor of 0.5, which is going to make our drawings half the size smaller. So now they're going to go from 16th scale to 32nd scale, right? Because double of 16 is 32. When you make things smaller, the number goes up. So I'm going to do 0.5. And so now everything's at 32nd scale. And if I take my 11 by 17, it looks like at 32nd scale, everything might fit onto a sheet. And so that's looking good for me. So I'm going to now take this information. Actually, I'm going to stop this video here.